Hi, welcome. My name is Charlotte. I love colorful and sparkly makeup, and I'm always looking for ways to rotate through the beautiful, colorful, sparkly makeup that I have in my collection. Of course, if that sounds interesting to you, I'd love it if you would like, subscribe, etc. So today I'm coming on here to introduce a project that I've been working on for pretty much the whole year now, just, offline. And I'm calling it my Project 100 Uses. And it's modeled after projects I've seen on YouTube from Chic and Too Much Tash. And I think that Too Much Tash calls her project the 100 Club. And she will come on every so often and talk about products, like I think in all categories, that she has used 100 times. And then Geek's version of this is called, yeah, I think the Project 100 Uses as well. And she does this specifically for eyeshadow palettes. And she's, tracking her use on the palette, whether she uses one shade or a bunch of shades from the palette. She calls that one use. And she'll pull in different palettes to her collection and begin tracking them once they're part of the project. And the way Chic describes her project really resonates with me, which is that she wants to focus on usage goals for eyeshadow because they're things that she'll probably never hit pan on, definitely never use up. And like as eyeshadow lovers, a lot of us are okay with that. I agree with her that, I'm okay with not hitting pan on things. As long as I know that I'm rotating through my collection and I'm getting good usage on my favorite eyeshadows. So I'm specifically hoping to get up my usage on my favorite eyeshadows, the eyeshadows that feel most beautiful and most special to me, as well as, the eyeshadows that are most expensive in my collection, because I want to ideally like bring down the per use cost of something that was really expensive. I don't currently have a ton of expensive eyeshadows in my collection, with the exception of one that I'm going to talk about today. And then also a couple weeks back, I picked up the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette, which is currently like my most expensive palette. But my tastes are getting a little bit more expensive. I'm eyeing some nice indie shadows, some higher end palettes, Lisa Eldridge, for example. So part of justifying those purchases to me would be to say, this shadow is so beautiful and I'm going to use it 100 times. Now, as I've said before, most of my eyeshadow is depotted, and even among the things that I keep as pre-made palettes, I think of eyeshadow in terms of pans. That is like the unit of eyeshadow that matters to me. So unlike Chic Geek, I'm going to be tracking my usage, and I have been tracking my usage on each pan of eyeshadow, treating it as an individual item. Obviously, that means that I'm going to make slower progress. It's going to take me a long time to hit 100 uses on a single pan of eyeshadow, and maybe 100 uses is like too ambitious a goal. Basically, I'm going to be tracking my little pans of eyeshadows as they move from like level 0 up to level 100 with, levels at like 10 uses, 20 uses, 30 uses, etc. And sometimes I will be picking out shadows to consider focus shades. So when I see that something is perhaps like close to the next level, I will kind of focus on it to get it up there, which I'm going to talk about today, what my focus shades are for the next little bit. But for the most part, I'm just tracking my organic usage across my collection, keeping in mind that I always want to be prioritizing my favorite eyeshadows, my best eyeshadows. So I'm going to talk you through the eyeshadows that I have currently that have like leveled up. I'm considering like 10 uses to be like the first level where I will update. For this first update, most of the shadows that have leveled up are maybe like more boring everyday shadows, or they might be inner corner shades because I pair those with many different kinds of looks. So this might be like a less exciting update compared to hopefully future updates. But I wanted to get this filmed before like it becomes overwhelming to talk about all the shadows I have on my list. And although a good number of these shades are inner corner shades, I would really like to prioritize lid shades with this project in a way, because Those are, I mean, obviously going to be the hardest to get up to a really high number, but I also think in some ways they're the ones that deserve the most love, and they're usually like the most special shades I have. And to say that you got a lid shade up to a high number, I think really means something, because it means like that, you know, if you used it 20 times, then that's 20 times that you showcased a shadow, that you like really gave that shadow the spotlight, if that makes sense. And one more thing I should tell you for context is that I did start tracking as of January 1st, 2023, for anything that was in my collection prior to that, which is, you know, almost all my ColourPop shadows are from 2021 or before. So anything that's ColourPop that I'm going to talk about, it has quite a bit of usage before I started tracking. So those shadows might have, like, maybe I'll say they have 10 uses, but they have pan or they have dips. Like, those have prior usage. Whereas anything that's not ColourPop, for the most part, I brought it into my collection either late last year or early this year. So you can kind of consider the numbers for non-ColourPop eyeshadows to be like all-time usage. The numbers are not gonna sound impressive, like when I'm talking about like my favorite shadows, and my like all-time use on them is like 10 times or something. Especially since I've been tracking now for 8 months, because it's the end of August right now. I realize that these numbers sound like pretty pathetic, but I do sort of cycle through my collection a lot, especially using projects like this. I'm distributing my attention pretty evenly across my collection for the most part. And that's like, you know, that's how I like to wear eyeshadow. I like a lot of variety. But that's why I'm gonna like be picking focus shades every update to sort of accelerate the usage on certain eyeshadows and just like make some progress within this project. The first category of shades I'm going to talk about is the sort of 10 uses club. So this goes from anything that's been used between 10 and 20 times. The first one is this one, Paradise, from the Jungle Lights palette from Flower Beauty. This is, it kind of speaks for itself. It's just a pretty bright metallic light gold inner corner shade, and I have 10 uses on this so far. I also have 10 uses on this shade from Odin's Eye, which is called Gabriel. I talked about this in my favorite makeup video, so it's great to have one of my favorite shadows in this class of, you know, shadows that are actually seeing love from me in my collection. This is also a lid shade for me, although I do also like using it as like a lower lash line accent, which is a way that I'm going to try and get more usage on this going forward. But yeah, super happy to have this at least like in one of these categories. Okay, coming in now at 11 uses, another lid shade. This is the shade Wild from Jungle Lights. I love this shade. I use this again as a lid shade, so that means that in 8 months I've worn this 10 times as like the center of a look, which is not bad for that one. Also at 11 uses, this is Satellite from the Beauty Bay Earthy palette. This is such an interesting and beautiful, like neutrally kind of earth tony silver shade, greenish silver. Again, an inner corner shade for the most part for me. I haven't used this much over the summer, but this is going to be a good shade to bring back for the fall. At 13 uses now, I have this shade from the ColourPop Zodiac palette, just a warm brown. I have a tiny pan on this. It was in my project pan, and that's the only reason that I have that much usage on it, honestly. Yeah, I guess it didn't take me ultimately that many uses to hit pan, but yeah, I hit pan in 13 uses, and then I just kind of like stopped using that, so I'm not going to focus on that going forward. But it's like fine as a warm brown transition shade. Okay, another 13 use shade and another project pan shade. This is a light taupey champagne shade from the ColourPop Bare Necessities palette. It's called Rumored. Also in my project pan again, and I have really loved this shade in the past, although I'm less into it these days. I'm like having a little bit of trouble reaching for this for my project pan. I don't know, we'll see what happens. It's not really a priority right now. Okay, this is the shade Kava. I have 14, yeah, I have 14 uses on this. It's from the Earthy palette as well, and this is also just a really beautiful, sparkly, metallic, light gold shade. Definitely an inner corner shade is mostly how I've been using this, and that's how I've gotten those 14 uses. Take the Lead from ColourPop also has 14 uses, and this is a just really basic, versatile, very cool taupey, almost grayish brown. And I like using this as like a kind of like an eyeball contour as well as a lower lash line shade or transition shade. Yeah, it's definitely a staple for me. Another inner corner shade is Mirage. This is at 15 uses so far, from the Desert Lights palette. Super pretty, very basic light pink shade. It's just like really, really metallic. So that makes a really nice inner corner shade, and I pair that with a lot of different looks. At 18 shades, I have this shade, also from the Zodiac palette, also from my project Pan. I'm also trying to hit pan on this one. It's called the Cancer. Oh wait, I was just straight up holding up the wrong shade. This is the Cancer. It looks pretty similar. This is also an inner corner shade. It's like not something that really excites me at the moment, but it has 18 uses, so it's almost at 20 uses, and I would like to get it to 20 at least. Okay, I have two shadows that are at 19 uses, which I'm kicking myself about because I could have just tried to get them to 20 before this update. These are, again, mostly inner corner shades for me. This is just a really basic white one called Let Me Explain from ColourPop. And then this one is Lumi from the ColourPop Blue Moon palette. I just love this shade. It's one of my favorite eyeshadows. It's an iridescent blue, and it's very smooth, and it has like a little bit of like a white glow to it as well, which is why I think it works really beautifully for me in the inner corner. And I do wear this all across my lid also sometimes when I'm doing like a just winged liner, for example. I just love this shadow. I use this all the time, all the time. I mean, really, I've used it 19 times in 8 months. So I'm like questioning now what all the time means for me. Like these numbers are kind of surprisingly low, but whatever. I love that shade. Relative to other things in my collection, it does get a lot of use. I have only one shade that's currently in the like 20 club, and that is another of my all-time favorite shadows. This is called Ray from the Earthy palette. Excuse me, excuse me. This is like, it's almost, oh, and I have pan on this. I hit pan on this recently. This is almost an iridescent, but it has sort of like a sheerish golden base. And it's like a golden green shimmer slash sparkle. It has some sparkle particles that are visible. Again, I like wearing this all over the lid when I'm doing a winged liner, but I also use it a lot in the inner corner and like inner lid. Love, love, love that shade. Okay, finally, the 30 Club. And sorry if this is disappointing, probably to be expected, but these are not very exciting eyeshadows. The first one is just like a bone white color. I have pan in this. This is Full Expose from the Bare Necessities palette. This is like a lot of people will call this a lid setting shade. I don't use eyeshadow to set my lids, but I do use this as like a brow bone highlight, and particularly to conceal like redness and scabs that I get sometimes under my eyebrows. Sorry if that's gross, but I do get sometimes like texture and scabs up there, and so I really like to use a powder to conceal that because it like blurs out the texture rather than a liquid concealer, which I feel like it cakes over texture. So yeah, basically I use this as a brow bone highlight with a small brush, which is why it has like a pretty deep pan in it. It's not a very interesting shade. And then the leader of the pack currently is this shade from Charlotte Tilbury. It's called Oyster Pearl. This is a super bougie shadow, so I'm really glad to be getting good usage on this. I have 34 uses on this, and I mainly use this on my lower lash line, just paired with like any look where I want to keep it looking kind of clean and fresh and keep all the color to the upper lid. I put this on my lower lash line just for a little bit of contour. I love the way it looks. And I also love the way this looks all over the lid. It's super, super smooth, super flattering. Just a really, really like beautifully textured eyeshadow. I guess what I mean by that is beautifully untextured. It's really flattering over top of anybody who has like a little bit of texture on their lids. This is a really, really nice option. Really expensive for a shade that's ultimately not that exciting, but it's a staple for me, and you know, I'm glad to get that per use cost down further and further the more I use it. So I'm gonna talk about some focus shades that I'm going to be working on in the next little bit. I don't know how often I'll update this project, probably just when I have like some interesting updates, or when all my focus shades are like moved up to the next category, or you know, I'm not sure yet. But yeah, I have a few shadows that I want to focus on, and mostly these are shades that are like on my tracking spreadsheet. They're already at like 6 uses, 7 uses, or maybe the ones that are at 19. I mean, all the ones that are at 19, I'm gonna try and push over to 20 for the next update. That would be super easy, and I have like weirdly a lot of shades at 18 and 19 uses. But yeah, I'm going to talk about some shadows that I'm going to try and like bring into the 10 use category, put on the map really for the purposes of this project. So I have this like cool toned transition shade called Banter from Bare Necessities. This is at 9 uses, so yeah, easy decision. I'm going to push that up to 10. Corduroy. This is a really nice like mucky fall green. This is at 8 uses currently. This is going to be really useful in the fall. I just really love this shade for blending out green shimmers, like earthy green shimmers. So I don't expect it to be hard to get usage on this in the fall. I'm thinking about what looks I'm going to be doing in the fall, and of the shadows that were sort of like around the 6, 7, 8 mark, I'm prioritizing the ones that are going to be inspiring seasonally. I have a bunch of shadows at 7 uses currently. This is Fascination from the It's a Mood palette. This is a really beautiful burgundy outer corner shade for me. I also like using this just as a liner. Also at 7 uses, I only got this shadow like a couple, like maybe 2 weeks ago, but I already have 7 uses on it. It's already one of my favorite shadows. It's an inner corner shade from the Glaminatrix Nearly Natural palette. This is called Naked Eye. It's so sparkly. It's so beautiful. I love this so much. It's an instant staple for me. I just want to keep using this like as much as I feel like, and I think this is gonna get up there quite fast, I think. I also currently have 7 uses on this shade Red Rocks. I adore this shade. It's a lid shade, and it's kind of a one and done for me. So to get this up to 10 uses, I'm gonna have to like wear it as the look on 3 separate days. But I think I can do that. I just really love this shade so much. And again, like, I just want to show love to the things that I really love, you know? I'm also planning to focus on this peachy shade from It's a Mood called Everywhere. I love this, especially in the fall. This is going to be a really, really great transition shade. And I have currently 6 uses on this. I also have 6 uses on this inner corner shade. It's called Play It Cool from the Mint to Be palette from ColourPop. And I'm wearing this today actually on my inner, oh, I'm wearing both of these today actually. I actually really love this paired with like warm, bronzy, coppery. Like I like this paired with autumnal colors. So I am excited to pull this into some fall looks, maybe put it in a fall BYOP. Not sure yet. This is at 6 uses, and I think I can pull it up to 10. This is the shade Carina Nebula from Terra Moons. I have 6 uses on this currently, and actually 5 of these uses were from focusing on this for the deck of panning. It was really a struggle to focus on this, I'm not gonna lie. There's just something about this shade that I don't like. I think when I ordered this shade, I expected it to be like a rosy base color, I think, and it does have that as one of the shifts, but the base is really purple. And I like warm, like dusty purples, but for some reason I don't know, I just never want to wear this shade. I just find it kind of like disappointing every time I put it on. I think because it maybe looks so neutral. But I mean, it's really pretty. It has really nice, like, it has like a shift of green, a shift of pink, a shift of gold. It's really pretty, technically. I don't know why I find it so uninspiring, but yeah, but I think I could get more use on this in the fall again because it's kind of one of those dusty kind of fall colors. Maybe I will start feeling inspired by this. I don't remember how much I paid for this, but you know, my Terra Moons shades are definitely some of the more expensive ones in my collection. and I definitely don't use them enough. Now finally for 6 use shades, I have this one, Billie Jean, from the ColourPop Blue Moon palette. I really love this shade. Every time I wear it, I love it so much, and then I just like don't reach for it for like months and months. Um, this is nice in the inner corner, like the inner lid, with like a little inner corner highlight from, you know, highlight or something else. I think it could also pair nicely with some fall tones like the burgundy shade that I'm going to focus on. So yeah, so I'll focus on this as well. And then finally for focus shades, I want to pull in this shade Folklore. This is one of my favorite shades from the Earthy palette, but I only have 5 uses on it. So again, I think this is going to be gorgeous in the fall, and I would like to show this the love it deserves, get it up there with my favorite shadows. This is a lid shade for me, and it's going to pair really nicely with like some of the like the Glam Light Dirty Martini shades that I'm really excited to use this fall. Here are some of those shades swatched together. We have Folklore, Fascination, Billie Jean, and Carina Nebula. And I think that that's actually a really inspiring fall color story. I am looking forward to pairing some of these in ways I haven't before. So that does it for this like intro slash update. This is my project 100 uses. I'm really excited about this project. It's one of my favorite like projects that I'm working on right now. And I'm also really enjoying like tracking all my usage on eyeshadows. That's been really interesting to see my organic usage, and also to see how slowly things progress really when you have quite a lot of eyeshadows. But I think this is a much more practical approach for me than to try and hit pan, because you know, I get bored, I want to cycle through, and this is a project that incentivizes me to cycle through and focus in small bursts rather than like focusing so hard on a single eyeshadow that I lose interest in it completely. Quite the contrary, I think this project makes me feel excited about pairing things in my collection, giving things love, bouncing around between different shadows. Yeah, so I'm really excited to keep going with this. If you're interested in hearing about my next update, make sure you're subscribed. And between now and the next update, I will have plenty more makeup videos coming your way. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.